Hey, English learners! Welcome back to the Key to Learn English podcast, your favorite place to grow your English, grow your mindset, and have a real conversation at the same time. I am Sarah.
And I am Ryan. And before we jump in today, I have a very important question for everyone listening right now. Ready?
Oh no. When Ryan says important question, I already know it is going to be something that makes people feel personally called out.
Okay. But here it is. Think of the last time something went really wrong for you. Maybe a project, an exam, a job interview, a relationship, a plan. What was your first reaction? Did you blame yourself? Did you feel embarrassed? Or did you actually sit down and ask, what can I learn from this?
And if you just went quiet for a second, that is perfectly normal. Because for most of us, failure does not feel like a teacher. It feels like a punishment.
Exactly. And that is why today we are talking about something so many people avoid: failure. Not the motivational poster version, not the fail fast, win big startup version either. The real, uncomfortable, sometimes embarrassing version that happens to actual humans.
Yes, because failure is one of those topics that sounds simple, but goes very deep very quickly. It touches confidence, identity, culture, fear, and eventually, if we are lucky, growth.
And it is also one of the most powerful topics for English learners specifically, because talking about challenges, mistakes, and lessons is something you will do in job interviews, with friends, with colleagues, in presentations. You need the language for it.
So today is a language episode and a life episode at the same time, and we will make sure both are useful.
This is a B2 level conversation, so we will keep things clear, but also add some stronger vocabulary naturally as we go. And just like always, when we use a key phrase for the first time, one of us will quickly explain it, so you never feel lost.
And we have a really good word tour at the end of today. Some vocabulary that will seriously upgrade how you talk about challenges, learning, and resilience in English.
But first, one small request. If this podcast is helping your English, please like this episode, subscribe to the Key to Learn English channel, and share it with one friend who is learning English or going through a tough time right now. Every share helps more learners find us, and it means everything to us.
And here is our question for the comments today. Write 2 things. Number 1. What is one failure that actually taught you something important? Number 2. How do you feel about failure now compared to when you were younger? We cannot wait to read your answers.
Okay, let us get into it, because first, we need to talk about why failure feels so bad in the first place. Because if it is supposed to be a teacher, why does it feel more like a bully?
Right. And I think the answer starts with something very simple. The way we were taught to think about failure when we were children.
Say more about that, because I think this is where a lot of people's relationship with failure actually begins.
Okay, so think about school. When you were a child, what happened when you got the wrong answer? In many classrooms, you felt embarrassed. Maybe people laughed. Maybe the teacher moved on quickly. There was very little space for, "Oh, interesting, you got it wrong. Let us understand why."
Yes, and the message that many kids received, without anyone actually saying it out loud, was that being wrong is bad. That making a mistake means you are not smart enough, not prepared enough, not good enough.
And that belief is incredibly sticky. It stays with people for years. So when an adult makes a mistake at work or fails at something important, that old childhood feeling comes back very fast.
That inner voice saying, "You should have known better. You are not good enough. Everyone is watching." It is mortifying. And mortifying, by the way, means extremely embarrassing. The kind of embarrassment that makes you want to disappear.
Yes. And the problem with that feeling is it does not help you improve. It just makes you want to hide. Or worse, to never try again.
Which is exactly the opposite of what failure is actually supposed to do. Because when we step back, failure is literally information. It is data. It is your life saying, hey, this approach did not work. Let us recalibrate.
Recalibrate. I love that word. It means to adjust your approach, to fine-tune something after realizing the current direction is not working. Like when your GPS recalculates because you took a wrong turn.
Yes, and no one gets upset at the GPS for recalculating. No one says, you failure of a navigation system, you are done. We accept that it is just adjusting to new information.
Imagine if we treated ourselves like that. Oh, that did not work. Recalculating. I love that image.
Right? But for many people, failure does not feel like a GPS recalculation. It feels like proof of something. Proof that they are not talented, not smart, not cut out for the thing they were trying.
And this is where the idea of a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset becomes really important. A fixed mindset is the belief that your abilities are set. You are either naturally good at something or you are not. A growth mindset is the belief that you can develop abilities through effort, practice, and yes, through failure.
And these two mindsets create completely different emotional responses to failure. Someone with a fixed mindset hears, you failed, and thinks, I am a failure. Someone with a growth mindset hears, you failed, and thinks, I have something to learn here.
The words look similar, but the internal experience is completely different. One closes the door, the other opens a window.
And I think for English learners specifically, this shows up a lot. How many of you have stayed silent in a conversation because you were afraid of making a grammar mistake? How many of you have avoided speaking because you did not want to sound wrong?
And that fear, that avoidance, actually slows down your progress more than any grammar mistake ever could. Because every time you stay silent to avoid failure, you also miss a chance to improve.
Exactly. The mistake you make out loud is worth 10 correct sentences you say only in your head.
I love that. And it is true for language learning, and it is true for life. You learn by doing, not by waiting until you are perfect.
Okay, so let us talk about something specific now. Because there are actually different types of failure, and not all of them feel the same or teach the same lessons.
Oh yes, this is something I think about a lot. Because people talk about failure like it is one thing, but it really is not.
Right. So let us break it down. There is what I call preventable failure. This is failure that happens because of carelessness, lack of preparation, or ignoring information you already had. For example, you did not study for an exam and you failed. Or you did not read the instructions carefully and you made an avoidable error.
And preventable failure can be very useful, but only if you are honest about it. Only if you can say, yes, I could have done this differently. I made a choice, and this was the result.
Then there is complexity failure. This is failure that happens in uncertain, complicated situations where even careful, prepared people sometimes get it wrong. Think of trying to launch a new business or learning a new skill in a fast-changing environment.
And complexity failure is actually very important because it shows you the edges of what you know. It shows you where your current knowledge or strategy runs out. And that edge is exactly where growth begins.
And then there is what some people call stretch failure. This happens when you try something genuinely beyond your current level. You reach further than feels comfortable, and you fall. But the reaching itself was valuable.
I love that one. Stretch failure. Because some of the best things I have ever done in my life started with a stretch failure. A moment where I tried something bigger than I was ready for, and it did not go perfectly. But it moved me forward in ways I could not have predicted.
Can you give an example? Because I think listeners love hearing real stories.
Yes, okay. So a few years ago, I applied for an opportunity I was not fully qualified for. And I knew I was not fully qualified. But I applied anyway because something told me, you will learn more from trying than from waiting.
And what happened?
I did not get it. But the preparation I did for that application, the research, the self-reflection, the way I articulated my strengths and weaknesses, that preparation was extraordinary. I became significantly more capable just by going through the process of trying.
Yes, that is such a good example. Because the outcome was a no, but the learning was a yes. And that distinction between the outcome of a failure and the value of the experience is something really important to hold on to.
And this connects to something called post-failure reflection. It is the practice of sitting down after something goes wrong and asking structured questions. Not, why am I so terrible? But genuinely, what happened? Why did it happen? And what would I do differently?
Post-failure reflection. And the word structured is key here, right? Because unstructured reflection after failure can just become self-criticism. It can spiral.
Yes, spiral means to get worse and worse in a circular way. You think one negative thought, and it leads to another, and then another. Until you are not thinking about the failure anymore, you are just feeling terrible about yourself.
And spiraling is exhausting and unproductive. But structured reflection, asking clear, forward-looking questions, that is actually protective. It gives your brain something useful to do with the discomfort.
Exactly. Some useful post-failure questions. What specifically did not work? Was it a skill issue, a strategy issue, or a circumstance issue? What information did I not have? What would I do differently? And what did this teach me about what I actually want or value?
That last one is interesting. Failure as a teacher about what you want. Say more.
So sometimes you fail at something, and during the reflection you realize, actually, I did not really want this in the first place. I was pursuing it because I thought I should want it, because someone else said it was important. And the failure gave me permission to step back and reconsider.
So failure can also be a compass, not just a teacher of skills, but a guide toward what actually matters to you.
Yes, and that is a much more compassionate way to look at it. Compassionate means kind and understanding, especially toward yourself.
And self-compassion after failure is something a lot of people genuinely struggle with. There is this idea in many cultures, and I see it a lot in language learners from high-achieving backgrounds, that being hard on yourself after failure is the responsible thing to do, that it shows you care.
But actually, research consistently shows the opposite. People who practice self-compassion, who treat themselves after failure the way they would treat a good friend, actually perform better over time. They recover faster, they try again sooner. They are more resilient.
Resilient. This word is going to come up in our word tour, but quickly, resilience is the ability to bounce back from difficulty, to keep going after setbacks. And self-compassion builds resilience. Harshness often destroys it.
Think about it this way. If your best friend failed an exam, or lost a job, or went through a painful breakup, what would you say to them? You probably would not say, "Wow, you really let yourself down. You should have known better. I am very disappointed in you."
Please, no one say that to their friends.
Right. You would probably say, "This is really hard. I am sorry. It makes sense that you are upset. Let us figure out what to do next." And that same kindness, you deserve to give it to yourself.
And I want to talk about something now that I think is really important and not discussed enough: the social side of failure. Because failure does not happen in a vacuum. It happens in front of other people, or we think it does. And that visibility, real or imagined, changes everything.
Yes, the feeling of being watched while you fail, even if no one is actually watching, even if no one actually cares.
There is a concept called the spotlight effect. The spotlight effect is the tendency to overestimate how much other people are noticing and judging your mistakes. You feel like a spotlight is on you when, actually, most people are too busy thinking about their own lives to pay close attention to yours.
And this is so freeing when you really internalize it. Most people are not watching your failures as closely as you think. They have their own fears, their own challenges, their own moments of embarrassment that they are quietly processing.
Yes. And actually, when we share our failures honestly, most people do not judge. Most people connect. They think, "Oh, good, it is not just me."
Vulnerability creates connection. Vulnerability here means the willingness to be open about your struggles, your uncertainty, your imperfections. And it is one of the most powerful things a person can do.
And for English learners, I want to say something directly. When you speak imperfectly, when you make a grammar mistake or use the wrong word, native speakers and fluent speakers do not usually think less of you. They usually think, "Wow, this person is brave. This person is communicating across a language barrier. That takes real courage."
And the people who might laugh or judge, they are usually people who have never tried to learn a second language themselves. They do not understand how hard it is, so their opinion carries very little weight.
Okay, now let us get practical. Because we have talked about the why and the what of failure, let us talk about the how. How do you actually build a better relationship with failure in your real life?
Yes, let us make this tangible. Tangible means something you can actually touch, see, apply, not just abstract ideas.
First idea: normalize failure in your daily language. Start saying out loud, "I made a mistake there," or "That did not go the way I expected. Let me think about why." Instead of hiding mistakes or minimizing them, just name them calmly.
And this is harder than it sounds, because many of us are so conditioned to protect our image of competence. We change the subject, we deflect, we move on very fast. But when you can calmly name a mistake, it loses some of its power over you.
Second idea: keep a failure journal. This one sounds unusual, but it can be really powerful. The idea is simple. When something goes wrong, write it down. Write what happened, what I tried, what did not work, and one thing I learned.
And over time, that journal becomes something remarkable. It becomes evidence of your resilience. You look back and see, look how many times things went wrong. And look how many times I got up and tried again. That evidence is incredibly strengthening.
Third idea, and this one is for the language learners specifically. Create a mistake celebration ritual. Every time you make a mistake in English and correct it or learn from it, give yourself a small internal acknowledgement. Not self-punishment, acknowledgement. That mistake was a step in the process.
I love this, because the learners who make the most progress are not the ones who make the fewest mistakes. They are the ones who make the most mistakes in the right direction. They try, they stumble, they adjust, they keep going.
And fourth idea, find your failure role models. Look for stories of people you admire who have failed significantly before achieving something meaningful. Not to feel better in a superficial way, but to genuinely expand your sense of what is possible when you refuse to give up.
And there are so many of these stories. writers whose books were rejected dozens of times before being published, athletes who were cut from teams before becoming champions, entrepreneurs whose first businesses completely failed before they found their breakthrough.
The common thread in those stories is not talent. It is the decision to keep going after failure, to use it as information, not as a verdict.
Verdict is such a good word here. A verdict in a courtroom is the final decision, guilty or not guilty. And that is exactly what many people turn failure into in their own minds. A final verdict on their worth, when actually it is just a chapter, not the ending.
Yes, failure is a chapter, not the ending. That deserves to be written somewhere.
Okay, Ryan. Quick question before we go into the word tour. What is the most important thing failure has taught you personally?
That is a big one. I think the most important thing failure has taught me is the difference between my effort and my identity. For a long time, when something I worked on failed, I felt like I had failed as a person, like the result was a reflection of my value.
Yes, that is such a common trap.
And slowly, over time, through a lot of uncomfortable experiences, I started to separate those two things. I can work hard, do my best, and still have it not work out. That is not a statement about my worth. It is just life being unpredictable and complex.
And when you truly internalize that, when you really feel the difference between what you do and who you are, failure becomes so much less terrifying. You can take bigger risks, you can try harder things, because the stakes feel different.
Exactly. The question is no longer, what if I fail and prove I am not enough? The question becomes, what can I learn if this does not go the way I planned?
And that shift, from fear of judgment to curiosity about learning, that is maybe the single most powerful mental shift a person can make. In English learning, in career, in relationships, in life.
Beautifully said, Sarah. Okay, now let us slow it down and go into our word tour, so you can take all of today's key language and actually use it in your own conversations.
Yes, this is the part where we go carefully through the most important words and phrases from today's episode. Listen, repeat, and try to think of examples from your own life.
Ready? Let us go.
First phrase, growth mindset. A growth mindset is the belief that your abilities and intelligence can be developed through effort, learning, and yes, through failure. For example, she approached every setback with a growth mindset, always asking what she could improve. Or, developing a growth mindset changed the way he responded to criticism. You can repeat, growth mindset. Growth mindset. Slowly, growth mindset.
Next phrase, recalibrate. To recalibrate means to adjust your approach after realizing the current direction is not working. For example, after the project failed, the team paused to recalibrate their strategy. Or, sometimes failure is simply your life telling you to recalibrate. Repeat, recalibrate, recalibrate. Take your time, recalibrate.
Here is an important one. Post-failure reflection. Post-failure reflection is the practice of calmly analyzing what went wrong after a setback in order to learn and grow. For example, she always spent time on post-failure reflection before moving to her next attempt. Or, post-failure reflection is more useful than self-criticism. Repeat, post-failure reflection. Post-failure reflection. Slowly, post-failure reflection.
Next word, resilience. Resilience is the ability to recover from difficulties and keep moving forward after setbacks. For example, years of small failures had built remarkable resilience in him. Or, resilience is not about never falling. It is about always getting back up. Repeat, resilience, resilience. Slowly, resilience.
Now a very useful one, the spotlight effect. The spotlight effect is the tendency to overestimate how much other people notice and judge your mistakes and failures. For example, she worried everyone saw her stumble, but the spotlight effect was making it seem much bigger than it was. Or, understanding the spotlight effect helped him feel more comfortable speaking English in public. Repeat, the spotlight effect. The spotlight effect. Slowly, the spotlight effect.
Next, vulnerability. In this context, vulnerability means the willingness to be honest and open about your struggles, uncertainties, and imperfections. For example, it takes real vulnerability to admit failure in front of others. Or, her vulnerability in sharing her story made everyone in the room feel less alone. Repeat, vulnerability, vulnerability. Take your time, vulnerability.
Here is a great phrase, stretch failure. A stretch failure is a setback that happens when you try something genuinely beyond your current level, when you reach further than feels comfortable. For example, the audition was a stretch failure, but it pushed her to a completely new level. Or, I have learned more from my stretch failures than from any of my easy successes. Repeat, stretch failure, stretch failure. Slowly, stretch failure.
Next phrase, self-compassion. Self-compassion means treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would show a good friend, especially during difficult moments. For example, practicing self-compassion after making mistakes helped him recover faster and try again sooner. Or, self-compassion is not weakness. It is actually one of the foundations of resilience. Repeat, self-compassion, self-compassion. Slowly, self-compassion.
And our last word for today, tangible. Tangible means something real and concrete, something you can actually apply, touch, or see, rather than something abstract or purely theoretical. For example, she wanted tangible steps for improving her English, not just general advice. Or, the tangible results of his hard work started to show after 6 months. Repeat, tangible, tangible. Slowly, tangible.
And that was our word tour for today. We covered growth mindset, recalibrate, post-failure reflection, resilience, the spotlight effect, vulnerability, stretch failure, self-compassion, and tangible.
You can always come back and listen to the word tour section again until these phrases feel completely natural to you. And try using them this week, in your conversations, your journal, your thoughts in English.
And remember what we said today. Failure is not the opposite of success. In many ways, failure is part of the path to success. Every time you fall, you are gathering information, building strength, and proving to yourself that you have the courage to try.
And if you are going through a difficult time right now, if something has not gone the way you hoped, we want you to know that this is part of being human. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are in the middle of your story, not at the end.
Keep going. Recalibrate. Reflect. Be kind to yourself. And keep speaking English, mistakes and all.
Don't forget to leave your comment below. Tell us one failure that taught you something important. and how your relationship with failure has changed over time. We genuinely love reading everything you share.
And if this episode helped you today, even a little, please like it, share it with one friend, and subscribe to Key to Learn English. Your support helps us reach more learners all around the world, and it means everything to us.
Take care of your mind, your language, and your courage. We will see you in the next episode.
This is Ryan,
And this is Sarah.
and you have been listening to the Key to Learn English podcast.
Bye for now.